In the bustling corridors of power in Washington, D.C., a subtle but profound shift is underway. The Federal Reserve, that august institution tasked with shepherding our nation's economic fortunes, stands at a crossroads. As we peer into the fog of economic uncertainty, one thing becomes clear. The era of aggressive rate hikes is drawing to a close, and a new chapter in American monetary policy is about to unfold. But before we delve into the basis points and yield curves, let's take a moment to consider what this means for the average American and Jane Doe in any town, USA. The Fed's decisions ripple through their lives in ways both seen and unseen. Interest rate on their mortgage, the returns on their 401k, the price of milk at the local grocery store, all are influenced by the deliberations of a group of economists in a boardroom in Washington. The pendulum swings. For the past year and a half, the Fed has been on a mission. Armed with the BL rate hikes, they've waged a relentless war against inflation, that insidious force that erodes the purchasing power of our hard-earned dollars. It's been a necessary battle, but not without collateral damage. Higher borrowing costs have cooled the housing market, slowed business expansion, and put pressure on job growth. Now, as we stand on the precipice of change, the Fed faces a delicate balancing act. On one side, the specter of inflation still looms, not yet fully vanquished. On the other, the risk of tipping the economy into recession grows with each passing day of tight monetary policy. It's a high-wire act that would make even the most seasoned circus performer nervous. The economists surveyed by Bloomberg News paint a picture of cautious optimism. They foresee a series of quarter-point rate cuts, beginning as soon as next week. It's a measured approach, a far cry from the shock-and-awe tactics of the rate-hiking era. This gradual Fed that's all too aware of the fragility of our economic recovery. The human face of monetary policy. But let's step back from the charts and graphs for a moment and consider the human element. Behind economic statistic is a story, a family struggling to make ends meet, a small business owner deciding whether to hire that extra employee, a retiree watching their nest egg with anxious eyes. Take Sarah, a 35-year-old software engineer in Seattle. She's been saving for years to buy her first home, but soaring interest rates have put her dream out of reach. For Sarah, a quarter-point rate cut could be the difference between renting and owning. Or consider Mike, a factory worker in Ohio. He's been pulling extra shifts to keep up with inflation, but now he's worried about layoffs as his company tightens its belt-in costs. For Mike, the Fed's decisions could determine whether he has a job next year. These are the real-world consequences of monetary policy, the human facero-economics. As we parse the Fed statements and dissect their projections, it's crucial to remember that behind every percentage point is a person, a family, a community. The crystal ball conundrum. Predicting the future is a fool's errand in economics. Yet that's precisely what the Fed must do. Their latest projections, as reported by the economists surveyed, paint a picture of gradually declining interest rates over the next few years. By the end of 2026, they anticipate rates in the range of 2.75% to 3%, a significant drop from current levels. But these projections are written in pencil, not carved in stone. The economy is a complex, dynamic system, influenced by countless variables, from geopolitical events to technological breakthroughs. The Fed must be nimble, ready to adjust course as new data emerges. This flexibility is both a strength and a weakness. It allows the Fed to respond to changing conditions, but it also introduces uncertainty into the market. For businesses and individuals trying to plan for the future, this ambiguity can be challenging. It's like trying to navigate a ship through fog. You know your destination, but the path is unclear. The labor market tightrope. One of the most closely watched indicators in this economic drama is the labor market. The Fed's dual mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices puts them in a tricky position. On one hand, a tight labor market with low unemployment is generally seen as a positive. If more Americans are working, earning wages, and contributing to the economy. On the other hand, an overly tight labor market can lead to wage inflation, which can feed into broader price increases. The economists surveyed see the unemployment rate edging up slightly to 4.3% by the end of the year. This is still historically low, but the upward trend is a cause for concern. It suggests that the Fed's rate hikes are starting to cool the job market, perhaps more than they'd like. This puts the Fed in a delicate position. They need to ease monetary policy enough to prevent a significant rise in unemployment, but not so much that they risk reigniting inflation. It's like trying to land a plane on a narrow runway too fast, and you OV too slow and you stall out. The inflation puzzle. Inflation, economic boogeyman that's been haunting us for the past couple of years, remains a central concern. The Fed's target is 2%, a level they believe represents price stability. We're not there yet, but we're getting closer. The survey suggests that the Fed will revise its inflation projections downward in its upcoming meeting. This is good news, indicating that their aggressive rate hikes have had the desired effect. But the battle isn't over. Inflation is like a stubborn weed. Just when you think you've gotten rid of it, it can spring back to life. Housing inflation, in particular, remains a concern. The shelter component of the Consumer Price Index has been a major driver of overall inflation, and it tends to be sticky. Lower interest rates could stimulate the housing market, potentially leading to higher prices. It's a reminder that every action the Fed takes has ripple effects throughout the economy. The great debate: how fast? How far? Within the halls of the Fed, a debate is raging. How quickly should rates be cut? How far should they go? It's a debate that reflects broader questions about the state of the economy and the nature of the challenges we face. Some policymakers advocate for a cautious approach, worried that cutting rates too quickly could reignite inflation. Others argue for more aggressive action, concerned about the risks of a recession if policy remains too tight for too long. This debate is healthy. It ensures that all perspectives are considered, that no stone is left unturned in the quest for optimal policy. But it also introduces uncertainty into the market. Investors, businesses, and individuals are left to parse every word of Fed statements, looking for clues about future policy direction. The of words. In the world of central banking, words can be as powerful as actions. The Fed's communication strategy is a crucial tool in its policy arsenal. A single phrase in a statement can move markets, shape expectations, and influence economic behavior. The survey suggests that the Fed will likely change its post-meeting statement to be more dovish, emphasizing concerns about employment. This shift in tone is significant. It signals to the market that the Fed is pivoting from its inflation-fighting stance to a more balanced approach, one that gives equal weight to supporting economic growth. But the devil is in the details. How explicitly will the Fed signal its intentions for future rate cuts? Will they provide guidance on the pace of reductions? These are questions that keep economists and market watchers up at night, poring over every nuance of Fed communications. The global context. While focus has been on the domestic implications of Fed policy, it's important to remember that we live in an interconnected global economy. The Fed's decisions reverberate far beyond our borders, influencing exchange rates, capital flows, and economic conditions around the world. As the Fed begins to cut rates, it could lead to a weaker dollar. This would make U.S. exports more competitive but could also increase the cost of imports. For emerging market economies, Fed easing could provide some welcome relief, as it would reduce pressure on their currencies and potentially stimulate global growth. But global economic conditions also influence Fed policy. Slowdowns in China or Europe, geopolitical tensions, or disruptions in global supply chains could all force the Fed to reassess its policy path. It's a reminder that in today's world, no economy is an island. The road ahead. As we look to the future, the path ahead is far from clear. The Fed's rate-cutting cycle is likely to dominate economic discussions for months, if not years, to come. Each decision will be scrutinized, each word parsed for meaning. The average American. This may seem like a distant drama, played out in the rarefied air of central banking. But its impacts will be felt in every corner of our economy, in the interest rate on your car loan, in the price of your groceries, in the security of your job. As we navigate this new economic landscape, it's important to remember that monetary policy is not an exact science. It's a complex interplay of data analysis, economic theory, and human judgment. The Fed's decisions are made by people, dedicated people to be sure, but people nonetheless subject to the same uncertainties and imperfections as the rest of us. In the end, the story of Fed policy is the story of America itself, a tale of constant adaptation, of balancing competing interests, of striving for a better future in the face of uncertainty. As we embark on this new chapter of monetary policy, we do so with cautious optimism, knowing that the road ahead may be bumpy, but confident in our ability to navigate whatever challenges lie ahead. For John and Jane Doe in Anytown, USA, the implications of these policy shifts may not be immediately apparent. But as surely as the turning of the seasons, they will feel the effects in their wallets, in their workplaces, in their communities. And that, perhaps, is the true measure of the Fed's importance, not in the abstract world of basis points and yield curves, but in the tangible reality of American lives. As we watch this economic drama unfold, let us remember that behind every decision, every projection, every carefully crafted statement, lies a fundamental goal: to create an economy that works for all Americans. It's a lofty ambition, to be sure, but one that speaks to the very heart of our national identity. In the grand tapestry of American economic history, the Fed's upcoming decisions will be but a single thread, but a thread that could help weave a stronger, more prosperous future for us all.